Grant back here again with another episode of Thinking in Circles. Just a little news flash. I'm still working on that project for basically linking the idea of Abraxas, which is generally known in the West, the God above good and evil, to the ideas from the East. I'm doing it in a very streamlined fashion, so this is actually taking me some time to put it together, to actually put it out to individuals that would like to know more about Abraxas, and also the way that the ideas juxtapose with ideas from the East. And it's going to be a good video, so I would like for you guys to keep an eye out for it. And you guys obviously that have subscribed and have hit the notify bell will be the first to see it on your news feed when it comes up. But in the meantime, I decided to put together a lecture because there were some things that I was really thinking about as pertains to the hero's journey. The hero's journey is something that grips me very deeply because I feel like in day-to-day situations, with the way that I approach life, I'm kind of like a hybrid introvert extrovert. I usually will do sometimes some things that could be typified as remarkably audacious in some ways. I really enjoy sometimes just living out of the core of my being, and sometimes that means that I will do things that people will, raise their eyebrows at, and a lot of times that kind of puts people on a clear-cut line where either they love me or they absolutely hate me, and that's just been the way I live. I've lived my life for the longest. It's been who I am. It's been what I am, and I'm good with that. So, long story short, I have seen the decline of individuals that live out their own eccentricity, and if you think about that word, out of the center of their own being, centricity, out of their center. And there are a lot of things that are within your personal center that you would like to live out, however you repress, possibly because of the ideas of society. What would they think? Sometimes I'll abide by, everybody has a conscience, a filter. Sometimes I abide by the filter. A lot of times I don't, because I'm not in this life to gain friends, gain followers, gain people that are going to take on my ideologies or viewpoints. I'm here to basically speak the truth that is within me, and if any can agree or if any learn something from it, great. That's a beautiful thing for me. So that's my mindset, and that's something that caused me to think in some ways. That's something that kind of caused me to think about the hero's journey today, and I entered this state where I just started writing. Almost automatic writing. I mean, I wrote 10 pages, which will go very quickly here, within a very short period of time, and that happens from time to time with me. And I just really was amazed at some of the things that came out of that pen, and was amazed that I was able to put it in such a format that other people could follow. So I found that it would be something good to put out here on this channel for individuals that are looking for a way to live more of a lifestyle that is being lived out of the center of their being, no matter what any individual or group of individuals may think it is that they should be living, the type of life they should be living. You know what I mean? So here we go with this lecture, and the lecture is called Experiment, the one word of the hero's journey. Okay, and some of the topics herein, actually all of the topics herein, will be from my own personal writings on the subject, and they are: the psyche is a catalyst, the alchemical basis of this supposition, basically the psyche being a catalyst, right? Experiment as a way of life, and as a catalyst towards self-knowledge and freedom from personal illusion/delusion. Also, the Hebrew equation of the words catalyst and consciousness. Also, experiment and experience as found in the hero versus dragon myths and archetype, and some ideas of their impacting capabilities lived out, if lived out fully in one's life. Also, the words experiment, most importantly, and experience, due to the inclusion in the root of experiment, unpacked via Indo-European roots so as to possibly elucidate any obscure content in the lecture. Also, an extended explanation based upon the etymology of experiment as a heroic mission statement, an antidote to the sickness of passivity, which is a life lived without deliberate conscious input. Also, and lastly, a consummating close that drives all points home via a wise quote my mother left me. And this lecture, as you can see with the topics, is going to be pretty interesting. And the hero's journey it centers around experiment, because when all is said and done, many of the more notable heroes, and even heroes in your own community, depending upon the community you've come from, individuals that have impacted the small circle of your own social affairs or wide circles of affairs within a historical mainframe, if you will, right? A lot of times they're individuals that did what they had to do, and based upon what they felt was really necessary, when they weighed out everything and counted the cost, they stepped out on it, and at the end of the day, they threw caution, safety, possibly resources or whatever else to the wind, in hopes that they could make an impact, and in hopes that they could actually make the effect on individuals within their sphere of impact, within their sphere of influence, you know what I mean? And those are usually the people that ended up getting the most respect, even if they lost their life, even if they failed at the end of the situation. People respected them. There were people that were worthy of respect that respected them because of the sacrifice that they saw that they made, which is sometimes a sacrifice that they wouldn't even be able to bring themselves to make. So I'm going to get directly into the lecture, because I could drag this on and turn this into something that's an hour or two long. Hopefully it's not that long here, but it's a very, very important subject. So experiment, the one word of the hero's journey, starts with these opening words, and we'll continue here, okay? The psyche itself is a catalyst. It is, we might say, part equal to this idea. A catalyst, analogous to the catalyst of chemistry, although the definition of such is any substance that increases the rate of reaction without itself being consumed or undergoing permanent chemical change. The way in which this is actually brought about is in the same type of way that makes it similar to the idea of the catalyst in chemistry. Through the psyche, to which we are directly juxtaposing both ideas, is through epigenetics, which relates to how behaviors and environment can cause changes within the way our genes work. These anomalies in behavior and environment can cause a change in the way our body reads our DNA sequence, the DNA itself acting much like the catalyst, remaining unchanged itself. It is just read differently based upon inner behavioral and outer environmental circumstances, which is something, pretty interesting to think about, in the fact that due to the way certain things are in this day and age, due to our DNA pattern, which has largely remained unchanged, we may be acting differently based upon what we think society wants us to act, based upon the way we think our social groups and peers will want us to act. And it may be going, that idea may go down to the level of DNA and the way that our psyche, or the way that our consciousness is unencoding that DNA and causing us to act certain ways that may be for our better, may be for our worse, may lead us to a non-genuine representation of ourselves to the world around us. Possibly, okay? This is a very alchemical idea, and anyone knowledgeable of Jung's works on the subjects knows that there is transference between the alchemist and his works he undertakes in the laboratory. He is making changes in the alchemical retort, which is a reflection of his inner world, and he is changed thereby also. Jung stated that a person or analyst cannot make an effect on someone that he or she is not equally affected by as well. So it's a two-way street, all right? This process is analogous to the catalyzing of a reaction where an enzyme will bind to one or more reactant molecules, a substrate, which in some reactions is broken down to create multiple or singular new products. Also, in another type of reaction, two substrates come together to create one larger molecule to swap pieces. The law of polarity, which is a Hermetic principle, right, and its efficacy can be seen here. A mind with little power of insight can see how this chemical/alchemical process gives insight into the deeper and inner workings of the psyche. A way to gain deeper insight into these workings, once known, is to live and view every day, every interaction, as a social experiment, or as an experiment just in general, right? Doing so will give you the very true idea that you have the power of input, of will, and projection of such into your surroundings, which will bring about some type of reaction, which over time and conscious attention in placement, which is measure, which entails measure, right, can be calculated, yielding desirable results. The more dangerous the experiment, the more pleasurable the results and findings. The Hebrew idea on this is very telling, okay? So we're going to get into the Hebrew idea of it, okay? So Zerez, Zayin, which is 7, Resh, which is 200, Zayin, which is 7, equals 214. And that's the word for catalyst, Zerez, okay? Which number is 214? 214 is also the number of the Ruach, which is the air, wind, spirit, or mind. That's consciousness. You know, and think about this, right? Without the air, without breath, right? Without the breath in your lungs, right? You go out of consciousness. Okay, so they're linked, and Eastern ideas have that idea down packed with meditation, increasing consciousness, which focuses on the breath. Okay, so the air, wind, spirit, or mind is ruach. Ruach is spelled resh, 200, vav, which is 6, and heth, which is 8, and that will equal 214 if you add those numbers up. The air, wind, spirit, or mind consciousness provides the framework for experiencing life, yet experience is a subjective thing. It can and is in most cases passively received, and the word received, I was kind of prompted to write the word kabal on the top of it, because in Hebrew that's the word for receive, okay, kabal. It's the root of the word Kabbalah, the receiving, okay, because the Kabbalah, which was a mystery knowledge, okay, and it has some basis in some ways in Gnostic ideas, right? It was orally transmitted from ear to ear, or from mouth to ear, rather, from person to person. Nothing was written down, okay? So there's a deep mystery that we can receive from life by consciously opening our mind and making a surveying, really, of what we see with our conscious mind. All right, so the idea now with experimentation possesses a remedy by which the passive mind can grow into self-realization via transforming chaos, which, as a polar reality embedded within the framework of experience, is never exhausted. Chaos is never exhausted, it's always there, and is a catalyzer of the substrate of consciousness. So consciousness is always being changed by its action, working upon chaos to order it, or by being swallowed up by it. If we can understand it this way, we'll probably get some insight into what's being said further in the lecture. The easiest way to understand this idea and how to actually elicit and perform the acts towards great benefit are held within the myths of old, myths of various heroes. And I'm gonna stop here because I put a footnote that will kind of explain, okay, why are you getting into hero myths in this whole idea of consciousness and chaos? Others have done it, but I hope in this lecture to basically get a point across to you that will allow you to start actually doing so, actually start using the idea of ordering chaos in a really easy way through one word, being able to start making that move towards doing the work that we all should really be doing. All right. So before entering all the way into this aspect of ideas enshrouded within the scientific, alchemical, biochemical idea of mastery over chaos or ordering of chaos, which is at root in the archetype of hero and dragon myths, I would like to state that the central idea I am discussing will, without saying, unless I shine the light on it now and set it here, enters upon shadow integration, and also shows how there is a potent cure within the shunned by society and thus yourself if you are a helpless conformist side of you. The shadow in Jungian terms is what that alludes to, okay? Something really to keep in mind, right? Because you can go and look stuff up about the Jungian shadow, how it's created through repression of certain contents inside of you because of ways people say you shouldn't be, things people have said you shouldn't do, and also it's enforced on you through your conscience rather, okay? So there is a cure in the poison, finding a way to ride the fine line between sick and well, so to speak, is a curative, right? Remember this about heroes and dragons before this reading from this coming portion. The hero, it will be found, if you research, is in many cases very identical with the nature of the dragon itself. An excerpt from C.G. Jung's Collected Works 5 states, the hero has much in common with the dragon he fights, or rather, he takes over some of its qualities, invulnerability, snake's eyes, etc. It so happens that in certain hero myths, the hero is born from the belly of a whale or dragon as a babe. Connecting to this idea, the Taoists, contrary to the Western idea, believe that it is the odds that make a man, not the even, which is feminine. Easy things, society, the way that it cuddles everybody and keeps everybody close and warm, and oh, don't worry about this or that. And I'm talking about Western society. It doesn't make strong men. You know what I mean? A lot of the easier things, the way that life has been made easier for us does not make men stronger individuals. It actually makes us weaker individuals, and that's been proven, that's been talked about in past times, but we're seeing this idea cropping up and popping up in this idea here. Now, the Eastern peoples, where I'm talking about odds and evens, they looked at odd numbers as masculine and even numbers as feminine. And in the West, even in the Western the Western metaphysical tradition of Kabbalah, we look at the number 2, for instance, as a male number. We look at the number 3 as a feminine number. Chakma, the archetypal man, if you will. You know what I mean? We look at that as a masculine idea. We look at Binah, the archetypal woman, as a feminine idea, the number 3. Okay, so that's where that line of reasoning comes in as well too. So we're going to continue on the conquering hero myths, right? The hero that faces the dragon. All right. So myths of various heroes who conquered, usually dragons, who were used after conquering to basically the heroes used the parts of the dragons in certain myths to reform society. Okay. And here's an example. A, Example A, such as in the story of St. George and the dragon. After his conquering the dragon in one form of the story, he scares the populace of the kingdom into converting to Christianity, for example. All right. So there was social change that was brought about by conquering the dragon for King George. All right. King George, St. George. He's probably the king after that, though, right? So example B, creating worlds via the rinds of the dragon's body. Usually the new world to be inhabited is another outcome seen in the Aztec creation / triumph of heroes over chaos myth of Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl in their capturing and killing of the crocodilian / dragon Cipactli, whose parts became the foundation for the various inhabited levels of the Aztec cosmology. C. Also, the hero or conscious aspect overcoming the chaotic aspect of life, psyche, and nature. For example, the dragon, via the experiment he risks the outcome of with his life, leads to boons untold. Usually, this comes in the form of a maiden, the dragon held captive, which is in the psyche is analogous to report gain with the anima via triumph over the infantile ego. Gold gain that the fire and smoke breathing dragon kept within his cave, which because of that environment tainted by smoke would be tarnished and covered in soot. If we use our imagination, right, we could basically see like the gold that the hero comes up on after he kills the dragon would be covered in soot. That whole environment, that the woman that's chained to the cave wall would probably be covered in black soot because she's been up there so long, and the dragon is breathing smoke out of his nostrils, right? The dragon, mind you, is the libido. It's an aspect of the ego, and keep in mind we talked about sulfur and how sulfur is the painter, the illustrious painter of the world, but it's also something that blackens metals, but it's necessary to the work of bringing the gold out of the lead. It's a necessary part of the work, okay? And that's possibly why the dragon and the ego and the hero, we could say, right? Because they're all one, are linked, okay? So meaning that there's some conquest on the self that must be made in order for the ego to be overcome, so that our conquests aren't in vain. Our conquests, all the boons that we gain, are not to the ego, so we're getting sicker, you know? So it's something to think about there. So let's see. Okay, so talking about the gold and the gold being soot covered, okay? This in the psyche would be analogous to the vulgar and also the spiritual alchemical aim of bringing gold out of lead via a transformational process, which the experiment is. That's the aims of the experiment, is to bring gold out of lead. Lead is black, it's dark, it's representative of the abyss, of chaos, of the darker aspects, the unknown. You see what I'm saying? And you're bringing something that you found out of that, okay? Out of the triumph of light over darkness, okay? So continuing forward, this triumph would bring about a confidence that is better than that of mere belief or opinion, but rather much better, because as the experiment begins with the hero, whether he knows it or not, the extroverted result reaffirms his position, his intrinsic necessity in life. This experimental state of being, of experimenting with life to create destiny through the smaller callings which appear as fated upon the individual, is a state of being and lifestyle that is active, in many aspects magical, fantastic, or of fantasy, creative. It's socially impactful, and among many other things is the spirit underlying any and all people that have contributed any notable change or changes to society at large historically, or even microcosmically within smaller groups wherein the individual has immediate influence. In either situation, the larger historical basically changing the face of time, right, contains a very ominous sense of fear and apprehension. That is the dragon, okay? The fear, the apprehension, and those type of things. That is the dragon. In the smaller microcosmic circle, there is still apprehension or fear to be faced, yet it is the difference between Godzilla and a crocodile, who at the base are reptilians, lizards, and dragons, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is, no matter from the highest level, if you're facing some things that are eliciting fear and anxiety, to the lowest level of things, it's all something at the reptilian core of your psyche that is, obviously it's gonna send impulse to the amygdala and say, hey, don't do that. It's gonna be problematic. It's gonna be this or this or this. And the thing is, though, that is unveiling, right? The veil is being lifted and allowing you to see what shadow elements that you need to face and integrate. And when you do so, you are going to create fate. You are going to create destiny for yourself. At what cost, though? There's always a sacrifice that is linked to this situation that you can't get away from either way. And that's the problem with our society is we're so damn narcissistic and scared to face a loss. We're so afraid to face a situation where we can fall face first that we don't get anywhere. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? So overcoming either, so the Godzilla, overcoming Godzilla, if you will, impacting the face of history, or overcoming the crocodile, right? Which is something, within your personal smaller circles and circles of influence, right? Overcoming either takes one to put himself within a hero's shoes, to face the situation consciously and actively, to experiment. Most people experience simply. They passively take in the experiments others are working upon them. In order to unpack fully this idea, I will close by giving the Indo-European root of the words experiment and experience, due to both being two parts of the same coin, okay? And I'll do this in an exhaustive fashion as well, as this word experiment, this one word, is an answer for many in this present life who lack an initiation right into understanding themselves, into self-awareness. We're at a lack of that in this day and age, and it's both scary, it's both sad, and it's something that we are suffering for. We're suffering for it, man. So I'm gonna put the rest of this out here, okay? There was a time during my personal awakening, which is ongoing but undertaken nevertheless, where I synchronistically saw something that had the words written upon it, and it said, "You are the adventure," okay? Yet the thing that it was written upon was wrinkled, and I saw, "You are the advent," instead. And the word advent is really important as well, though, too. I'm not going to get all the way off into that, right? But the thing is the advent is like the coming of the Messiah, the second coming of Christ. And the coming of Christ is for the salvation of humanity. You know what I mean? And the thing is I'm not saying that, oh, I'm here. I'm not saying that, my psyche was telling me, oh, you're the Messiah. You're here to save the world, Well, I'm here to save certain people that will listen, right? But I'm not pushing any brand of salvation on anyone. I'm here really, if anything, at the end of the day, to save myself, So I said that in this lecture, I say, this is a thought to think indeed. But you are the advent only insofar as you are consciously living and actively experimenting. All the more reason to live this way if you can realize the truth that you and I and all people are an active experiment. We are an active experiment. The number 66 in the Hebrew Kabbalah shows you that. And I think I put that up in my last lecture, and if I didn't put it up on the screen, I might put implications to the number 66 in the Hebrew Kabbalah and Gematria, right, on the screen. So you can see what it's looked at as far as the numbers severally added 1 through 10 will give you the number 55, right? That's the number. 55 is the magical number, if you will, of what represents the human body and all physical things. But the next thing that comes that human beings create, and that human beings are creating, what are we doing? We're only making things out of what we are bringing outside of ourselves, equals 1 through 11. What we create after 10 is 11, and that is basically the number 11. After 10, after the thing that we create afterwards is 11. 1 through 11 added severally is 66. Okay, and like I said, I'll throw that up here on the screen. But continuing reading, without further ado, the elucidation of the life-changing, if undertaken daily, word experiment. So I'm gonna break down the word experiment. You have 3 syllables, experiment, or 4 syllables. Okay, but the I is I'm saying 3 syllables really, and those are 3 syllables I'm only going to approach because the I does not really have the most importance in this, but it does. Metaphorically, I finding out who you are, who I am, is all about this. Okay, so, and you'll see why I'm talking about that. X, the word, the portion X in the Indo-European roots links to Proto-Indo-European EG, which is I, me, or ego. And keep in mind that that Proto-European EG is actually the basis of the words we and us. And the Proto-Indo-European individuals were individuals that were hunter-gatherer type of individuals. The neocortex was not well developed in them, meaning almost if they looked at we and us as I, they were looking at all as one. They had a unified idea of moving as one group. They found their identity in the group. The person next to them was I and we, most possibly, because you see it here in the language, right? And then also EGHS is out, meaning derivatives. Derivatives included within EGHS is are strange and extreme, to just name a few. Okay, but that's where we get X in the Latin, which means like out of. Okay, so the next one, or the next syllable here, pair. All right, P-E-R. So X-per, and then the rest would be ement, right? Pair would be P-E-R-1. Okay, would be forward, through, in front, early, first, chief, towards, against, near, around. These are all directional attributes and also represent vicinity. These 2 words, directional and vicinity, have roots implying a ruler and also neighbors within them. Because if you look at the word directional, right, that's going this way, going that way, right? To, right? Rect, which is right, and then chono, right? You know what I mean? So you have the idea of, as far as the direction is concerned, righteousness. You see what I'm saying? Going towards righteousness, and then vicinity, vicinus, is a neighbor. You know what I mean? You even hear in Spanish, vecino is the word for neighbor. You know, it's still there. Okay. So the next one, per 2, is to lead or pass over. Okay, and that's still in the idea of PER from experiment. Okay. So PER2, to lead, pass over. PER3 is the direct root of experience and experiment. Those are two things that need not be divorced from one another. And PER3 means to try or risk. Derivatives also include here in this root fear, peril, expert, and empiric. Empiric is like taking an approach instead of like doing things through numbers or whatever. You're experimenting through the actual subjective things that happen within. You know what I mean? You're actually trying to get results based upon what is felt, what is known, what is actually seen as a result. What you want to see truth as opposed to just a bunch of scientific numbers and everything. Okay, and Carl Jung took a very empiric approach to his psychology. Okay, PER4 is to strike. Verbal root belonging to PER1, which was to go forward, through, in front of, early, first, chief, towards, against, near, around. Okay. The derivatives included in PER4 are pressure, impress, repress, oppress. Okay. And also reprisal, etc. PER5 is the next root in the PER series, to traffic in, sell. And it's the verbal root belonging to PER1, which I just aforementioned. And some derivatives words are interpret, price, appraise, appreciate, depreciate. So these are things denoting, selling, ideas in selling, and ideas and things people will buy, okay? Also, the word pornography is in here, from Greek porne, which means to prostitute, and from per nanei, to sell. Okay, so why are we going into this? Is because the thing is as far as throwing yourself out there and making an experiment based upon a belief or a value, the thing is sometimes you do have to think about, when looking at the end goal, is how is this going to be perceived? How is this going to make and the word perceived, how is this going to be seen? You have to make that measurement, okay? And the thing is when you're selling something, the best and easiest, the most important way to sell is to sell to the faster part of the brain. Not the part of the brain that is looking at numbers and trying to understand things by statistics and science and different things. No, you're trying to sell to the emotions. You're trying to sell to safety, survival, and those type of ideas, because that at the base root deals with longevity and survival here on the face of the planet Earth. Okay, so now let's get into, we went into X per E, right, in parenthesis, because we're not getting to the I, okay, but the I is implicit in this already. Now we're going to get into mint, okay, and the T is in parenthesis here, okay. So the mint portion could be linked to MEN1, which is to think, with derivatives referring to various states and qualities of mind and thought. And some words here that are found are mind, mention, automatic, mania, money, monster, mosaic, and music. Okay, and these are things, keep in mind, that deal with the psyche intrinsically, because music, it has been said, is something that links directly to the idea of sexuality. Sexuality, also spirituality, linked directly to psychology. Okay, so something to think about. These are all things that deal with states of mind. Men too is to project. Okay, we're always making our projections on things. When we're afraid of something or anxious about something, it's our own projections that we're afraid of. That thing, a lot of times, and a lot of times it's a situation. That situation has no idea of fear in and of itself. That situation is not afraid. You are the one that is afraid and is anxious, and you have to face those fears, right? So men too is to project. Some words that are associated with that root are mouth, mental, mountain, menace, imminent, prominent, and mount. And the words for mountain and mount are subliminal ideas. And the idea here is that if you can find one idea that trumps the things that you are anxious about or scared about or feeling uneasy about, one idea that trumps these things and makes it worthwhile going for and going towards, you're going to do it, and all parts of your mind and psyche are going to go on board to help you to get the thing done. Okay? Now, men 3 goes back to the word to remain, or to the idea of to remain. You have the words manner, mansion, remain, permanent. Now, keep in mind that this could mean physical permanence, as far as in a manor, mansion, or to remain physically, but also to remain for all time within the minds of all people because of an act of boldness that has been done, and maybe you are no longer there, but you are there imprinted in individuals' minds. They think about you every time they think about the sacrifice that you made. That's implicit in the idea of Christ, for instance, okay? And the idea of remaining, for instance, as far as mansions, in the Bible, in my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have not told you. So there's also existence in the realms of the spirit above. Okay, and that's something to think about. Men 4, and this is in the mind you. Okay, small or isolated. Monad, the monad, which is the one. Okay, from which all other things come from. A monk monk. The word monk comes from men 4. Monastery. Okay, mono, pseudo monad, and the thing is now you have ideas of multiplicity. And you also have ideas of simplicity now in men 4, which deals with monad, monk, monastery being shown, right? And the thing is you can find yourself through simplicity, or you can find yourself through multiplicity from the groups, from through pursuits that are more seen to be materialistic, if you will. There's ways of getting yourself ideology from a group, if you will, from connecting yourself to things of that nature, or just from isolating and becoming one with knowledge of yourself that you get through yourself. Okay, the last root in the idea of ment from experiment is mend, MENDH, which is to learn. The words that come from MENDH are mathematical, mathematics. So measuring is shown here, right? Through numbers, knowing through numbers, science, right? Polymath, which is a person of great varied learning. And all this learning, all this multiplicity should lead you back to the one idea, which is the self. You know what I mean? You can learn about God. You can learn about the self through many various forms of spirituality, through many different things that you see in nature, through many sources. Okay, that's what this is kind of going to show. Now, I am going to continue forward here. Okay, so now, to compile a few meanings that can expose the ideas hidden within experiment. I will not exhaust every single possible avenue here due to time and retention of attention to a principle that can really liberate the least of the average and common who are green, who are not well versed in how to gain actual experience consciously. How many experiences? Now I'm gonna ask you this question and answer it for yourself and really think about it, right? How many experiences have you actually had in your life that you have actually had, okay? And didn't just happen to you? Because sometimes we say, oh, I had this experience, but wait, that happened to you. You didn't have it. You didn't choose to have it, right? Okay? It is a real humbling and eye-opening question to ask. How many experiences contain learning as an afterthought of the process? This is an Epimethean experience. Now, I put an asterisk there to explain the word Epimethean. And Epimetheus, or Epimethean, is from whose mistakes, sorrows of manifold kinds were unleashed upon the earth. It's a deity, a Greek deity, who basically opened up Pandora's box, or the jar of Pandora, and unleashed sorrows, multiple sorrows on mankind by opening that jar of Pandora. They say Pandora's box, but it was actually a jar. Opening that jar up, you know, and as an afterthought, had to look back on it, wasn't such a good idea. But here's the experience nevertheless. And that was the Greek god Epimetheus, okay? The brother of Prometheus, okay? What I hope to inspire is a Promethean experience, okay? Now, I put a footnote on Promethean. Prometheus is one which, or he who looks ahead and brings new consciousness via taking of risks in order to expand consciousness and self-knowledge, even if sacrifice is necessary. And it happened, sacrifice was his lot, okay? And is ours if we choose to take the Promethean experience, okay? So what I hope to inspire is a Promethean experience which will entail consciousness and may entail sacrifice. One of the renderings I will leave as an idea upon how to enact this hero's journey from the etymology of experiment is to learn many deep lessons which will lead to self-awareness. One must not divorce experiment from experience, meaning that one must face and go through risk. Now, I put a asterisk, and I'm going to stop here on the idea of going through risk because there's something that needs to be said on that, and then we're going to finish this up, okay? This taking risk, right? Going through risk. This takes audacity, which is something many people lack today. To go against the face of the status quo, the thou shalt, the norm. This causes people to pay attention. People that see audacity. It causes people to open their eyes like, I can't believe this person did this, right? The Indo-European root of audacity is au, which is to perceive, to place perception. And that's what it means, to place perception. And it is wise to look at the roots close to it, which one above is ater, fire, and below is aug, to increase. Now, I'm going to explain why even go there. Fire symbolically links to libido, desire, attachment, and longing. These are seductive traits by nature. Below that, aug is to increase, and it is something symbolic of thought, logos, abundance, and also forethought. Audacity can make even a fool look wise and ahead of his or her time to those without the ability to naturally assert themselves. As an example, look at the previous political leader or leaders, I'm going to say that way I'm not giving away who I'm talking about, that have done just this same thing. Also people in entertainment that captivated the world with their ego eccentricity. The central idea of audacity, though, as PIEAU, to perceive, is to be seen. The I is central here. Last but not least, Indo-European root WEID, to see, has to do with this idea, which derivatives include guide, wisdom, idea, history, Hades, which is the lord of the underworld, and also as Pluto, lord of wealth. Guise, manner, clairvoyant, and envy, just to name a few, okay? The root WEIE, to go after something, pursue with vigor, desire, with nouns which form the meaning of force or power, is related to Indo-European root WIRO, which is the root of violate, violent, gain, invite, and possibly more, yet WIRO is the root of the word man. And in this root are found words such as werewolf, world. Now I'm going to stop on werewolf. A werewolf is half man, half beast. We couldn't get any closer to integration of the shadow aspects and the true understanding of what integration of shadow aspects actually are. It's not doing away with those things that people think are wrong and evil and bad and crazy, but it's finding a way to integrate those into your day-to-day life, and also to know how to do the good, but also know how to do the evil and when those things are appropriate, okay? Continuing forward, in the root WIRO is world. Weltanschauung, which is a word that you'll hear a lot of German speaking psychologists use, which means a world view or current world view. Also, the word virile, and keep in mind, vir in Latin means man. Okay, virile, virtue, and I wrote in here too as well that the Latin root vir equals man. We should note. Curia is also in wiro, which is court, and they say that word curia or court is from co-viria, meaning we are men together. And now, if you think of that in social terms, right, the court system is what puts most men that live from the center of their being down a lot of times, okay? And this may be a very, very crazy point to throw out in a lecture. People be like, "Oh man, what are you saying? Like, we should be lawbreakers or whatever." Well, we have a law that is written on each and every one of our hearts, and even in the idea of Abraxas, the thing is God, which is ultimate good, right? The devil, which is ultimate evil. These are ideas that have been given to us to polarize our mentalities and to have a split amongst ourselves within our very self. So the thing is, what is good? What is evil? We need to ask that question and make the answers for ourselves, because we have a law that is written on the inside of our hearts. All right. So continuing forward now and talking about taking risks, calculating these risks and facing and going through these risks, right? So one must face and go through risks, situations that present danger with a goal in mind, knowing that being seasoned by bouts with fear and perilous situations provides one with many tools, many formula, many weapons that are efficacious and more reliable and true than hope or faith, which are merely two ushers which beckon one into this path of action. The outcome of finding self-knowledge and awareness comes with many victories and many defeats. Both present one with things to revel in the way of accolades, yet more important, both provide feedback as to how the same endeavor within the empirical approach can be utilized upon the next experiment to a more sure result that in terms of heightened percentage produces a result of greater guarantee. This is an endeavor worth blood, sweat, and tears. So I'm gonna sum this whole lecture up with something that my mom once told me, and it was actually during a time when, if she had known all the things I was doing and all the things I was going through, which I was very hush-hush about, she would have probably not told me this, okay? But my mother once told me, and I will end on this note by saying a worthy quote, and it's a quote that's worthy of being a summation of the motto of the heroic endeavor. And this is what she said: the risk plus the benefit equals the deal. And I'm going to leave you guys to think about that, and to think about that in the equation of understanding what experiment is and how to live every day in your life as an experiment. To take the social experiment approach to many more things in your life. It's going to open up creativity. It's going to open up channels of new ideas. It's going to open up channels of new perspective angles that you could come at situations that you've really been moving towards in quite a robotic fashion, you will come to find. And this is an idea that is going to free you from the dregs of just living a very normal, boring life. You know, so many people are living such a normal, boring, status quo life. And some people say, oh, on Friday I go out with my friends, we go to the bar and we drink or whatever. It may cause you to think a little bit something different about all that too. It may cause you to think about different angles and different approaches, and it may revolutionize the entire face of your life to where you look back and say, wow, how was I living the life that I was living before, man? This life that I'm living now, based upon things, me bringing things up out from the inside of myself. This is how I want to live my life. This is what I'll live for. This is what I'll die for. And that's what I hope to prod you guys with, to urge you guys towards, to impel you forward towards. And with that, I hope that you guys have been enriched by the lecture content, that you guys have learned something from the lecture content, and that you put social experimentation or the experimental lifestyle into play within your own life and reap nothing but the biggest and best rewards. If you haven't liked any of these videos and you do like the videos, please like. If you haven't subscribed and you want to know when new videos are coming out, please like and also subscribe, and make sure that you click the bell icon so that you can be notified of when new lecture content such as this will be presented. And if you would like to share this with somebody that would want to hear something or needs to hear something of this nature, please do so as well. And above and beyond anything else, I'm hoping that wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, whether it's afternoon, or whether it's nighttime, that you've been enriched by this. And with that, I will be signing off for the night. Have a good one.